Can you use Firebase for creating apps like Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp? Actually, the question is wrong. You should ask why Firebase is not used to create scalable apps like users with like apps with 10 million users, 1 billion users, 20 million, 30 million, 50 million users. Why companies like Facebook, Instagram, or like any company like Amazon, then WhatsApp, why they are having their own database if Firebase is so good, right? You are having so many products under Firebase. Why then these companies are having their own backend? If you are a student, should you learn Firebase in 2022? If you are a startup owner, should you consider Firebase as your database for your product? All these questions we are going to answer in this video. So hey there, this is Akshit Madan. Welcome back to a new video. And in this video, we are going to talk Firebase. So first of all, let's see the Firebase website. And if you don't know about Firebase, it's the easiest database to learn if you're a student or if you're a beginner, right? If you are in college and you're in first year, and if you are considering your future in app dev, web dev, then you have to learn one database. I'll suggest Firebase should be your first database, right? So Firebase was my first database and my experience was really awesome. It's really easy to learn and it builds confidence, right? So what are the different products under Firebase, right? So let's check out this products tab, and over here we can see that under the build tab. So if I'm talking about the building thing, the building of the apps, which all things I get? First of all, I'm getting two types of databases. One is real-time database and another is cloud Firestore, right? So you can read the difference between them. Actually they both are really good. Just the difference is that in real-time database you are visualizing your data in the form of JSON, and in the cloud Firestore you visualize in the form of collection document like a normal NoSQL database, right? So yeah, this is it. And one more point, Firebase is a NoSQL, non-relational database management system, right? So you know about RDBMS, that is SQL, and where you store the data in the form of tables and rows, columns. But in a NoSQL database, you are having different types of NoSQL databases, basically like column based databases, then collection based or document based databases, key value pair based databases, such kind of thing. But we are not going to dive deeper into types of databases. We are going to talk about Firebase, right? So the products is real-time database, cloud Firestore, then remote configuration, Firebase extensions, authentication, right? Authentication. I think Twitch, it's a very famous company. They are using Firebase authentication for providing authentication service in their application, right? Then cloud functions, you can basically run any kind of function like push notifications. You can use Firebase for implementing that. Then app check, cloud messaging, that same push notification thing, hosting, then cloud storage. That means you can put files, PDFs, Word documents, images, videos, any kind of file you can put in this type of bucket, and you can refer that or you can fetch that data in your application, right, in a client side, right? So cloud storage. Then Firebase ML, this is a beta version and it's getting explored really well. You can have your own custom machine learning models. You can put that models in, you can host your models in the Firebase, and you can you can just run your machine learning model on your client side using the Firebase, or you can use their own default ML models. They are really good. Face detection, then pose detection, audio, some kind of audio detection kind of ML models are also there with them already written. You just need to call it using the MLKit plugin, right? So this is really good. The products are really good. So now we believe that Firebase is really an awesome product. We are also going to check the pricing at the end. We are going to see it. But why like big companies are not using it? So should you use it? It depends. It depends on the fact who you are. So let's assume that you are a student. Right? So when you are a student, I am hoping that you are not having much industrial experience to be more precise, with the application development, with the website development, right? So at that case, I will suggest you that go ahead with Firebase. Go ahead, because a lot of resources are there. So second point is resources. There are a lot of resources available on the internet, on the YouTube, in the form of tutorials, in the form of blogs about Firebase, right? You can work with React, Flutter, native side, Android, Java, Swift. You can take any tech stack, and resources are available in huge amount, right? So yeah, second point was resources. Third point, it is free. It is free to start, right? In AWS, if you're planning to learn AWS, then you have to have a credit card, right? There are some like features or some provisions for the students. They don't need to have a credit card, but let's say you're not a student, you don't have a college ID card or something to prove that you're a student, then you need to have a credit card to start, right? So many people don't want to put their credit card, or they just are exploring the database or exploring the platform, and they just don't want to like put their credit card, right? But Firebase is really easy to start. You just need to go on Firebase, click on get started, and you can create your own product, right? You can just add a product like this, add a project, create a project, put your name of your application, then add the plugins, done. You can add Android, you can add iOS, you can add a web app, you can add a Unity project, you can add a Flutter project, anything you can add, right? This is the beauty of Firebase. It's easy to begin. It is free to start. You don't need to pay anything, right? So when you're working with some ML models, when you're working with push notifications, at that time you need to have a credit card, and then you have to purchase a Blaze plan. We are going to come on that. Don't worry about that, right? So it is free to start. Then number 4, easy interface. Easy interface. So I remember that I already had the experience with Firebase. So when I wanted to shift to MongoDB so that I can create my own custom backend with Node, Express and Mongo. So I was very confused. What is a cluster? Why I'm choosing AWS? Why I'm choosing Azure? Then what is happening? Why I have to like work with a URL? Then I have to take that URL and paste in my Express.js like middleware, or I have to create schema, I have to create a model, then I have to, like, for authentication I have to depend on JWT tokens and all that. But with Firebase, what happens, Firebase, let's assume that here is a Firebase. Let me take a different color. Yes, so let's say this is my Firebase, right? Now which all features I'm getting with the Firebase? Let's say you're a student, and when you are a student, then you are really new to development, right? So, and when you are creating your own project, you have to define authentication, whether that is email authentication, phone authentication, Google authentication, Facebook authentication, Twitter authentication, LinkedIn authentication, all are provided with Firebase, right? So all types of authentication are already there with the Firebase. You don't need to go to any third party thing or anything, right? But when you shift to MongoDB, Express, Node.js, custom backend, then you have to like depend on third-party tools for authentication. But here, authentication is handled. Then you are having your Cloud Firestore. That's nothing but a collection document-based database, right? So you can have collection. Let's say you are having users. Users are there in your application. Then your users are there. Then they will have certain document IDs. All the users are there. Then they will have some data. Let's say name, then their email, then their user ID, then their bio, their description, everything inside Cloud Firestore, right? So after Cloud Firestore, you will require Firebase Storage, right? So when you are, let's say you are building a social media application, then you have to store images, you have to store videos, you have to store some DPs and all that. So you are having Firebase Storage already there. That's kind of bucket, and you can put your files inside that. Right, you will get a URL, and using that URL you can fetch that data, right? But when you are working with the MongoDB, you have to like define the schema, then or let's say you're working with Amazon S3 buckets. First is credit card, then you have to learn that. Believe me, like as many like tutorials and resources are there for the Firebase, they are not present in the same amount for any other database or any other like platform which provides you the cloud database service, right? So Firebase is having a lot of resources. So yeah, we have already covered that resources part. So easy interface, free to start, resources, and go ahead. So if you're a student, go ahead with Firebase. Make at least 20 projects in Firebase. You will be like pro in Firebase, right? And a lot of companies are using Firebase. I'm going to create another video which all big companies are using Firebase. I think the next video will be that only, which all big companies are using Firebase and for which purpose they use. Big companies don't depend on a single platform, right? It's not like that if you are building Amazon, or let's say Amazon, or Twitch, let's say Twitch, it's not like that the complete database, storage, authentication, then their machine learning models, the streaming, it's not like that they will depend all their services on the Firebase. It's not like that, but there are certain features that for that they use Firebase. So I'm going to discuss that in the next video, that is how big companies use Firebase. So till then, let's say you are a student, go ahead with Firebase, right? Now let's say you are a startup owner. And you are creating an MVP. Then what are the advantages you get with Firebase, or what are the pros and cons of Firebase? There are certain cons of Firebase. So let's divide it into two parts. For student, there are no cons, I would say, because you don't have to work with big data, you don't have to work with big or complex queries kind of thing, right? You are building simple projects for your friends to share, right? But if you are building an MVP, there are certain pros and cons. So first of all, let's talk about pros, right? So pros. What are the pros? Number one pro is developers. A lot of developers are there who knows Firebase, right? Almost every college students have to learn app dev and web dev, and I'm pretty sure they are using either the MongoDB or they are using the Firebase, right? So when you are a startup owner, you don't have much money, right? I'm assuming that you have not got any investment. Then finding college students or working with the college students is really affordable for you, right? Because they are just going to charge you $200 stipend or $300 stipend maximum for a month, right? So a lot of human resources are there, right? Developer resources are there. And I'm assuming that when you are a startup owner or MVP, it's really important for you to get into the product, for you to know the product, right? So again, resources are there and they are easy to learn. You already know how easy the Firebase UI is, how easy the interface is, right? So for you as a co-founder, as a founder, and if you're from a non-tech background also, then it's easy for you to grab the concepts, right? So easy for even non-tech guys, because founders can be from non-tech background, right? So for non-tech also, it's easy to learn. Then the another pro is again pricing. For less number of users, it is going to come in the cons also, right? Pricing is also a con of Firebase, right? Because after 100,000 users, I'm going to come on to the pricing. But I would say that when you are building an MVP, I'm assuming that you are going to hit 10,000 users, 20,000 users, maximum 50,000 users, right? After that, you are going to get the investment. If you are hitting this much users and your product has a potential, then obviously you are going to get the investment, right? Or I am assuming that if you are hitting so much users, you are already prepared and you are really serious about your product, right? Then you are going to pay to the Firebase. But till then, it's really, really free. It's cheap, right? So number 3 for MVP, it's the pricing, free, right? So these are the basic pros, right? You can obviously go on Quora, and yeah, the complete video is a summarization of Quora, Stack Overflow and GitHub answers, right? So I'm going to cover, this video can be a little longer, and because I'm going to cover everything, right? I'm going to just talk Firebase in this. So these are the main pros, right? Apart from this, I don't think that you as a owner of just an MVP product, you have to think anything else about the database, because already Firebase is covering everything, and you just need to worry about, like, as a owner, you have to worry about pricing, that's covered. You have to worry about the human resources, whether you're going to get the developers at less pricing or less cost, that is covered. Then you can be involved in the product, that is covered. Obviously, yeah, in the Grow Monks, like in my freelancing agency, when the products which we are working on with the clients, we are teaching them Firebase, right? And they're really, really getting pro at it, right? Because it's easy to grab the concepts. And yes, if you want to have a product of your own and you are searching for a freelancing agency with the services of app dev, web dev, UI UX, you can reach out to me through the WhatsApp number that is given on the website, right? And yes, you can see that we are using Firebase for our products, for the MVPs, right? Let's get back. Now let's talk about the cons which we have, right? So if we talk about the cons, number 1, querying the data. It's not easy to query your data from the Firebase, right? It's complex, right? When you want to have, let's say you are building a social media application and you are building the news feed, then getting the data, you are going to get the data in the form of JSON, in the form of snapshots, but like rendering that data in the form of your client UI, it's difficult. You need to create classes, you need to create models, right? So I would say that, and when you are running your search queries, Firebase has not provided any default its own search query thing, right? You need to depend on third party, that is Algolia or Elasticsearch, right? So querying your data and having a search algorithm, right? Let's say you are building a restaurants app and you need to search, your users need to search nearby restaurants, then Firebase is not having their own search feature. You need to depend on Algolia, right? So yeah, you need to depend on third party services for querying and searching. So this I would consider it as a con, right? Second is pricing. Yes, so if you don't want to shift your database or your database from Firebase to custom database after 100,000 users, the pricing really becomes high, right? So if you have come on the pricing part, let's go to pricing part, right? So I'll go to pricing. So this is the pricing page for Firebase, and you can see that it's having two plans, Spark plan and Blaze plan. First one is for the students, for the less number of users, no cost, you don't have to pay anything. But as your users grow and as your needs increase, then you need to have the Blaze plan, and for that you need to have the credit card, right? So testing, analytics, app distribution, app indexing, they all are free, right? Authentication, 10,000 users per month, and if you're a student, if you're a startup owner, this is really a good number, right? As a student, you're not going to hit 10,000. That's my personal experience. I tried to share that app which I created in my first year, second year, third year to my college students. They don't download, right? Nobody cares, right? That's the reality. Everyone is busy with their own projects, right? After 10,000 per month with the Blaze plan, you have to pay just $0.01 per verification, right? For US, Canada and India, of course. For other countries, you have to pay $0.06 per verification, right? So here you are thinking that, okay, a $0.01 is not a good, it's very less, right? If you compare. But after 10,000 users per month, let's say you have created a viral app, right? You have created a viral website, then easily you're going to get 50,000 downloads, 50,000 new users per month, right? Or at least 20,000, 25,000 you easily get, right? If you have created a viral project, then this number gets bigger, right? Then you have to see after 10,000, okay, if I am getting 25,000 new users every month, then after 15,000 new users, right? So let's calculate 15,000 into 0.01, it's $150, right? So you have to pay $150. Still it is less, and if you are from another country apart from US, Canada and India, then $900. You can see it's getting bigger now. But let's say you have got in 1 month, because you can't stop your users to download and register on your application, right? You just can't stop them. So let's say your users are increasing, and in 1 month you have got, let's say 50,000 new registrations, then extra will be 40,000, because after 10,000 you have to pay. So this number becomes 40,000 into 0.06, $2,400. So this can be less for you, this can be big for you depending on your condition. But for an Indian user, for India, this is a very big amount, right? This is a very, very big amount. It's certainly around 2 lakh rupees around, if I am not wrong. Yeah, around 2 lakh rupees for in 1 month. That's a very high cost of registration. Just the authentication we are talking about, right? We are not currently talking about the database. We are not talking about the cloud, Firestore, then functions, then messaging, then storage, ML. We are not talking about that, right? We are just talking about just to register people on your platform, you have to pay this much amount if you have got 50,000 new registrations in 1 month, right? This is a good number. Then after Cloud Firestore, you get in terms of GBs, right? So if you are having just 1 gigabyte data, 1 GB data in total, that's no cost. But after that you have to pay. This also becomes really a bad number when you are having so many users, because data is going to increase, right? If you are having new users, data is going to increase. Cloud functions are also, you can calculate depending on your users. But let's go to this thing. Yeah, it is pay as you go. You don't have to pay anything before. As your users are going, then only you have to pay. So this is a good thing. And this is the Blaze plan calculator. right? So I usually suggest going ahead with Cloud Firestore, and let's say you are having extra, okay, this is a very huge number. Let's say for an MVP, I think 100 GBs of data will be a good number. Yeah. Then document rights. Now think, let's say you are building a social media application, and have you ever thought before liking someone's post? No. Have you ever thought of writing a comment under your friend's post? No. And we like close Instagram, we open Instagram, like I usually spend 1 hour to 1.5 hour every day on Instagram. And don't you think that as soon as you're going to like one post, it is going to have one right? So if you're building a social media application, you can like have the number of writes, and you can have the number of reads, right? As soon as you're going to open Instagram, it is going to fetch data from your database, and you have to show the data to your customers, right? So this number really becomes bad. Reads and writes really become bad. Deletes are okay, but read and write really become bad, right? You have to have at least for 50,000 or 100,000 users, you have to have a big number, and you can see the cost, how it is increasing. For Indian users, for the Pakistani or the Bangladesh users, this number is really big, and it's not affordable for startup owners, right? If you are not having the funding, right? You have to think, right? So that's why I considered pricing here also and here also, because if you are having less users, pricing is free. If you are having more users, pricing becomes really untidy, right? Now let me talk about some of more technical thing, right? So number one is like it's part of cons only. If you want to migrate your database, let's say you started with 0 users and now you are having 100,000 users, and now you think to create your own custom backend with Node or with Spring Boot, right? And you want to shift your users from Firebase to AWS EC2 or S3 buckets, something like that. Then you don't really get a feature of exporting your data in Firebase, right? You have to use some third-party tools like Firefoo. That's a tool for using which you can export your data, right? Or you can contact Google or support to get your data, but it's kind of vendor lock-in. So it's a concept called vendor lock-in, where you as a customer get stuck with a vendor. Firebase is a vendor, and you get stuck with a vendor with your data, right? Let's say tomorrow Firebase doesn't want to give your data, then you have to stuck with the Firebase. So this is a concept called vendor lock-in, right? So this was another con of Firebase. Then another thing is you will not be able to, if you are turning into a big company after investment, then you will not be able to implement microservices. Now what is microservices? Like let me write first, no microservices support, or I would say that to be more precise, if you want to implement microservices in your app or your project, then don't go ahead with Firebase, right? Now let's understand microservices. So this you need to understand what in Firebase, let's say you're working or Firebase or Node.js, Express.js API, then all your things, like let's say this is one service of fetching users, then this is another service of like posting, then this is another service of liking, some kind of, these are services like, right? Or authentication, this is another service of authentication, then storing your images, storing your videos, streaming, these are certain kind of services, right? Or I can say collection of services. So to understand microservice in layman terms, I'm not going to go deeper into microservices. This is collection of services. You can see that all the services are inside one bucket. They are all combined in Firebase, right? But what happens in microservices, and this feature you don't get with Firebase, you are handling your services, different services separately. Let's say auth, let's say managing users or storing users data, right? Or streaming service. All these services are here separate, right? They can be on different server, they can be on different database, they can be on different third-party tools, right? They're separate. So this is called microservices, right? Where you are handling all the services. Okay. Yeah. So where you are handling all the services separately. This is easy to handle, right? But for this you need different types of developers, you need system design experts, you need microservices expert, you need to have a CI/CD cycle, you need to set up DevOps, and all that you cannot afford at an early stage, right? So, but if you're turning into good stage, then you can shift from Firebase to another custom backend thing, right? But yeah, this thing you don't get with Firebase if you are like thinking of Firebase as your cloud partner, right? Another thing is which happens with like big companies, they want to have to implement system design concepts like sharding. Now what is sharding? Sharding is a concept in which you like have like logical sharding or dynamic sharding, algorithmic sharding, in which you don't store all your rows. Let's say you are having 1 million rows of data, 1 million rows of data, let's say 1 million users data, right? In sharding, what happens is you don't store all these users inside one single database, right? What you do is you divide all these rows with some concepts, and I'm not going to go inside system design concepts. You divide these rows with certain algorithms into DBs. This is DB1, this is DB2, right? This is DB2, and this is DB3, this is DB4, right? Or they are different servers, DB4, and let's say this will have like 100,000 rows, this will have 100,000 rows, this will have 100,000 rows, this will have 100,000 rows. This is a very good thing to implement when your company is big, because let's understand a simple example. You want to search a user, and you know that that user ID is at the start, and you are, according to certain algorithm, the starting IDs are there in this DB1, in this shard. This is called a shard, right? So you don't have to implement search in these three DBs. You just will go inside this DB1 and you will find the user and you will return the data. So can you see, instead of searching inside the complete 1 million users, you are now implementing your search with just 100k users, right? This is the advantage of sharding. But this concept you can't implement with Firebase, or it's complex to implement this part. You need to have your own custom backend. You need to have your backend in AWS thing or MongoDB, or let's say, like, I'm not going to go inside that part, right? But with Firebase it is complex. So yeah, these are all the things with Firebase. We studied. If you are a student, what you should do, go ahead. If you're a startup owner, go ahead, I would say. If you are getting converted from an MVP to a complete industrial company, then if you have chosen Firebase at the start, then it will be harder for you to export your data, shift it, right? So yeah, these are the concepts. I think I have covered everything. At the last, I would show you one thing. That's a Quora answer, and let me bring that code. So yeah, this was one of the top answers on Quora about should you use Firebase for your project or not. So the answer is yes, but you will burn too much money. This we have already covered in the cons of Firebase, right? The pricing becomes really high. Why? Firebase is a general purpose, very easy to use API, and so are the features. Features are a lot. We have already covered about so many features. Very easy to use, but not too rich of functionality, right? You have seen which are all the cons about Firebase, right? You don't get so much functionality. You get services, but you don't get functionality. You cannot get complex queries, the same part as I covered. You cannot implement queries, you cannot implement search. With a Firebase, it's really hard, right? You will easily build an Instagram clone. I would say yes, you can build Instagram, you can build WhatsApp, you can build Firebase, but will it be scalable? No, it will not be scalable, right? However, at a certain point, it's simply too expensive, and you're better off developing your own stack to serve your needs efficiently, right? So again, you have to shift to your own custom backend. Conclusion: build an MVP with the Firebase. If you have no idea about backends, if your app gets traction, you can easily transition to your own stack. Most of the time you won't get traction, so there's no need. So this line, the meaning of this line is that most of the times you don't know whether your product is going to will it stay in the market or not for a long time, right? If you are a startup owner, right? So for that thing, to avoid all the cost to pay to the developers of high backend microservices thing, just start with Firebase. You can hire college students, they know Firebase, and you can easily build your product at a very low cost, right? So this was the thing. I hope that you like this video, and yes, you can reach out to me through Growmonks if you have any app dev, web dev, UI UX project. I am going to bring one more video about Firebase, about which all companies are using Firebase and for which purpose, right? If you want to learn system design, microservices, or anything from me, I'm thinking to start a series of Node.js, Express.js with Flutter. If you want to start it, for me to start, if you want, then you can write interested in the comment section. I hope that you like this video. Till the next content, keep coding, keep innovating, and thanks a lot.